Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. Today's video, we will be recapping the O-Levels English Oral because it's just around the corner. And hopefully, with this scoring sheet, you will do well for the oral examinations. So here are some scoring tips for the planned response. First of all, use a thematic anchor, right? So you want to begin by explicitly stating the core theme of the video to show immediate grasp of the broader context before zooming in into the details, right? So what a lot of students do is they watch the video and then when they deliver the planned response, they forgot the overall theme. So this is what you want to start with to get the ball rolling, and everything is anchored, all right, to the theme itself. Now, secondly, you want to use a signposting structure, that is, using verbal signposts such as from a social perspective or conversely, right, which is a contrast adverb, right, or in the context of our local landscape to ensure that your logic is easy to track. Now, don't try to lump everything into one paragraph and skip around all the time, all right? By signposting, you are telling the examiner, right, with your planned response that you have taken the effort to organize your content, all right? And this is just a signal to the examiner that this is what I'm going to talk about, okay? So your arguments are easier to follow. Next, this is what a lot of students fail to do. Use an academic register, and you want to employ very precise formal vocabulary and avoid very casual or slang to maintain an objective and analytical tone, right? So this is not like chatting with your friends, okay? Maybe primary school students, yes, it is okay to use a casual tone, but for secondary level, especially O levels, right, you want to avoid treating the examiner like your buddy, okay? And you're just using very casual language that you use at home. You want to demonstrate that you have mastered a more formal, a more academic tone of voice, right, when you deliver your planned response. So here are some examples, right? You want to use words like arguably, underscores, contingent upon, etc., to make your argument. Now, usually for the second or third prompt, right, sometimes you may get a bit of do you agree type of questions. Then you want to use this type of vocabulary if your goal is to score an A1, right, or A2. Okay. Now here are some common mistakes to avoid. Now, number one, avoid falling into the descriptive trap. This is just reciting what happens in the video rather than analyzing why it matters on the underlying implications, right? So you have your preparation time, your 10 minutes before the exam time, and you're watching the looping video. So if you're just trying to, describe what you see on the surface level, that may not land you an A, right? You might just get your B at best, okay? Now, secondly, your scripted delivery. You want to avoid sounding too rehearsed, as this triggers an unnatural cadence and thus diminishing the impact of your analysis. So what happens is that despite having a script, you want to have, say, the script with bullet points, right? And then avoid reading off the script word for word. When you read off the script word for word, you sound very robotic, right? And your tone is very flat, okay? And it's very unnatural, okay? So you want to just, glance at your script to look at the cues, all right? And then deliver your points as if you are talking to a real person, okay? Right, and third, this is what I mentioned just now, right? Your casual tone, right? The anti-register. So a lot of students like to use very informal language or contractions. It's like, yeah, that undermines the authority of your argument, okay? Try to avoid that, and this requires practice, okay? Because we are creatures of habit, and we like to revert back to what we are comfortable using when we speak, all right? So when you are sitting for the O-level oral examination, you want to practice the more formal register, right? Like what I mentioned just now, instead of reverting back to your comfortable, casual kind of tone, all right? And number 4, some students they just ignore the examiner. It's as if the examiner is not there. Okay, this is what we call the lone speaker syndrome, where you are just speaking like a monologue, right? And you are ignoring the examiner's attempts to guide or explain or expand the conversation. So sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the examiner do prompt you and they do intercept you, interrupt you, okay, with some prompts. Usually they're just trying to help you. So don't just ignore the attempts, right? Don't just ignore the prompts. Okay, a conversation is always a dialogue, right? Dialogue means two-way. You must listen closely to the question first before you respond. Okay, otherwise you risk drifting off, you risk digressing, and then you're not answering the question. So you may say a lot of things, all right? And then the examiner may try to interrupt you with a prompt to try to get you back on track, and then you ignore the examiner, right? That's not a very smart thing to do. Okay, so just try to engage the examiner, listen closely to the questions, listen to the keywords, okay, use your listening skills, all right, and then demonstrate that you have good English verbal skills, right? That you can speak fluently and you make sense, right? This is not about just talking nonsense, just rambling all the time. Okay, if you're rambling all the time, at best you might get a B. But if you want your A, you want to be talking about points that with significant substance, right? You don't just want to be very shallow, right? Talk about everything surface level. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I just mentioned, right? Superficial examples, right? So these are students that rely on very generic, low effort anecdotes, and secondary school students like to do that lack local resonance or intellectual depth. Okay, so here are some examples of the superficial examples, right? For example, a lot of students say, I like to exercise at the park to stay healthy and fit so I don't get sick, right? So first of all, you notice that this is a very casual way of speaking. Second of all, in terms of language, you have not demonstrated that you're able to use certain good words or phrases, and it's very superficial. Okay, so here is what you should do, right? I find that balancing academic rigor with physical activity, specifically cycling through the connector paths in Bukit Panjang, is crucial for maintaining mental clarity during the exam season. So there are words like academic rigor, right? Specifically, crucial, mental clarity. Okay, so these are all very good words lumped into a very dense sentence. Okay, so if you can try to use maybe just 1 or 2 good words in your sentences, I think you are doing better than most. Okay, so with that said, we have come to the end of today's short little video. Okay, so to sign up for lessons, you know where to find me, EnglishTuition.org. All right, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.